So here I am, scrolling Reddit late at night like usual. My wife, Emma, is asleep upstairs, or at least I thought she was. It's funny how mundane the beginning of a nightmare can feel, right? Just an ordinary night with my feet up, sipping on a cold drink, and killing time. I had no idea my whole world was about to flip upside down. I was browsing some of my usual subs when a title caught my eye. How do I make sure my husband doesn't find out I cheated? I clicked it, partly out of curiosity and partly because, let's face it, people post wild stuff on Reddit. But as I read, my stomach started to twist. The post was oddly specific. A 34-year-old woman, married for 9 years, 2 kids. Her husband worked in IT and loved fishing. That's me. The details were too close for comfort. My heart was pounding as I scrolled further, praying it wasn't true. She described sneaking out to meet a coworker on Thursday nights, claiming they were work events. She even wrote about how she kept her stories consistent, so he doesn't get suspicious. But the kicker? She said she'd hidden her second phone in the trunk of her car. The car I washed last weekend. The car where I'd spotted a charger in the back that I couldn't figure out. It was Emma. It had to be. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My hands were shaking as I opened her Reddit profile. I knew I shouldn't. How many people could fit that description? But I had to know. And there it was, post after post. Each one worse than the last. She wasn't just detailing her affair. She was asking for advice. She'd even replied to comments. Some users were encouraging her to come clean, while others fed her excuses and strategies to keep it hidden. One comment stood out, though. It read, "Careful, lady. You keep posting like this, and your husband might just find you on here." Imagine that. Imagine that. I sat there for what felt like hours, rereading every single word she'd written. My stomach churned as I pieced together her web of lies. She'd been seeing this guy, Dave, for months. Thursdays, hotel rooms. Her posts even mentioned specific excuses she'd used to throw me off. A work dinner here, a late-night meeting there. It was like she had written a manual on how to betray me. But then something snapped. The sadness, the heartbreak, they got swallowed by this wave of cold determination. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. No, if she wanted to keep playing this game, I'd play too. Only this time, I'd make the rules. So I decided to fight fire with fire. I created a Reddit account of my own. Brand new. My username? Let's just say it was subtle but pointed enough to get her attention eventually. Something like, cheated on in 34. My first post was simple. My wife doesn't know I found out she's cheating. I need advice on how to handle this. I posted it in one of the same subs she'd been frequenting. I wasn't just looking for advice. I was baiting her. I wanted her to see it, to read it, to feel that creeping paranoia I had felt the moment I found her posts. The responses poured in. Some people sympathized, telling me to lawyer up, to confront her, to walk away. Others wanted me to go nuclear, expose her, ruin her life. But one comment stood out. Play the long game. Let her think she's in control, then pull the rug out from under her. Make her sweat. I grinned for the first time all night. Over the next week, I documented everything. I wrote detailed posts on this new account, chronicling my days with my cheating wife. From the outside, it probably read like a drama series. I posted about how she'd kissed me goodbye before heading to work last Thursday, only for me to track her car to a cheap motel on the other side of town. I wrote about how I'd found her second phone in the trunk, exactly where she said it was in her posts, and how I'd photographed the messages between her and Dave. The crazy part? People started following along. My posts were blowing up. Hundreds of comments. People were invested, giving me ideas and begging for updates. Some even started piecing together their own theories about what I should do next. Then it happened. Late one night, as I was refreshing my post, I saw a reply that stopped me cold. "Hey, this sounds eerily similar to my posts. If you're who I think you are, please DM me. We can talk." It was her, Emma. She had no idea it was me behind the account. I didn't respond. I let her stew. Over the next few days, her tone shifted in her posts. She went from confident and dismissive to downright panicked. One post of hers read, "I think my husband might be onto me. What do I do?" The comments weren't kind. Some people dragged her, calling her selfish and clueless. Others mocked her paranoia, saying she was being dramatic. But a few were eerily prophetic. If he's as smart as you make him sound, he's probably already planning something. Better hope he doesn't find your posts. If only they knew. I waited until the following Thursday. That's when she was scheduled for her work dinner. The same one she'd been lying about for months. But this time, instead of pretending to believe her, I set my trap. At 6:30, she kissed me goodbye, dressed to the nines, and left the house with her usual cheery, "Don't wait up." I watched her drive off, my chest tight, but my resolve unshaken. I already knew where she was going. I tracked her car using the GPS I'd secretly installed, and her destination lit up like a neon sign. The same motel as always. My heart hammered in my chest, but I reminded myself to stay calm. I had planned this out perfectly. I didn't follow her. Not immediately. Instead, I pulled up my Reddit account. My latest post had already gone live earlier that day, titled, "The Final Act." In it, I teased my audience about how tonight was the night I'd confront her. The comments were wild. People were urging me to expose her in a dramatic way, to hit her where it hurt. But they didn't know I had something much bigger planned. By the time I left the house, I wasn't heading to the motel. I was heading to the house of her friend Jessica, the woman she always claimed she was meeting on these Thursday nights. Jessica had no idea what was going on. And honestly, she didn't need to know. I just needed to borrow her alibi. With Jessica none the wiser, I parked outside her place and snapped a few photos of her house. Then, I posted the images to Emma's latest Reddit thread, where she was actively asking for advice on how to calm her nerves. I added a simple caption, "Not where you said you'd be, huh?" Then I drove to the motel. I didn't storm inside. I wasn't here to make a scene, not yet. I just needed one last piece of the puzzle. So, I waited in the parking lot, camera in hand, until the lights in room 214 flicked on. That's when I snapped a photo of her car and uploaded it to my Reddit thread, accompanied by the caption, "She thinks she's untouchable." By the time I got home, my phone was blowing up. Emma's posts had exploded with activity. People were tagging her in my thread, putting two and two together. Her frantic replies were almost laughable. "This isn't me. You've got the wrong person. Please delete this." I didn't respond. Instead, I waited for her to come home. When she walked through the door just after midnight, she was visibly nervous. Her hair was disheveled, and she barely looked me in the eye as she muttered, "Long night. I'm going to shower and head to bed." Couldn't help but smirk. "Sure thing," I said, my voice calm. I gave her time to get comfortable. Let her think she was safe. Then, as she was lying in bed scrolling through her phone, I walked in with my laptop and placed it on the nightstand. "What's this?" she asked, her voice uneasy. "Oh, just something you might want to see," I said. I opened my Reddit account and pulled up my posts, one by one. Her face drained of color as the pieces clicked together. She stammered, "Why you? That's you?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Instead, I clicked on my latest post, which had gone viral in the hours since I uploaded it. Thousands of comments. Hundreds of people dissecting every detail of her betrayal. I turned the screen toward her, showing her the final update. A photo of her car outside the motel and the words, "Caught you. Checkmate." She stared at the screen, her eyes wide, tears brimming. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. But even she didn't sound convinced. I stood there, arms crossed, and let her unravel. Let her feel the weight of her actions as she realized the whole world was watching. "Here's the thing," I said, my voice cold. "You wrote the story, Emma. I just turned the ending into something worth reading. The fallout was brutal." She begged. She pleaded. But it was too late. The evidence was undeniable, and I had all the support I needed, both from my lawyer and from the strangers on Reddit who had been cheering me on. The next day, I filed for divorce. The best part? She still doesn't know that the Reddit account documenting her affair went public, shared to every platform imaginable. Last I checked, her boss saw it too. Turns out Dave wasn't too keen on his dirty laundry going viral. Funny how things work out, isn't it? If you were in my shoes, how would you have handled it? Would you have confronted her right away, played the long game like I did, or done something completely different? And what would you do now, knowing the whole world has seen the truth?